Hi everyone! Thank you for tuning in to video 2 of our ISEP France Webinar Series. This one is going to cover all the logistics of studying abroad in France, such as language requirements, course descriptions, finding those credit values, and other concerns and important topics. If you haven't already done so, please go watch our video 1 of our series, which talks about all the programs that are on offer. Up next will be our video 3, and it's going to discuss every single program in the ISEP France network on mainland France, as well as Reunion Island and the French Antilles. In all 3 options, you'll see in the comment section below some really important resources for you to click on. And if you ever have any questions, please feel free to email me at lmoats@isep.org. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope you find this webinar series very helpful. So now let's talk about some of the language recommendations and guidelines. ISEP uses the Language Proficiency Report to help us know what language level students are at. And this, along with the French essay, will help us as well as the other universities determine if this program is a good fit for the student. So generally, like I said earlier, if a student wishes to take a full course load in French, we recommend that the student is at a B2 language level. This is intermediate, high to advanced. And typically this means 5+ semesters of college French, or you can say something along the lines of high school French plus 3 semesters, or if a student's done another study abroad program. It's just really hard to say. And in the past on the ISEP website, we've said 4 to 5 semesters as a requirement, but that's not necessarily the case anymore. So as long as a French professor fills out this LPR and places students at a B2 level, we should be able to accept them for regular university courses in French. Again, some programs allow those B1 level students, but typically you're aiming for that B2 level if you want to successfully complete a program with regular university courses in French. So once you've determined your language proficiency, then it's really important to try and narrow down those courses. And of course, the way to do that is to find those course lists and course descriptions. This is one of the most common questions I get via email is, where are the course descriptions? I need syllabi to get my courses approved, etc. Well, the fact of the matter is course descriptions are very hard to come by for regular university course programs at French universities. In fact, in most cases, they just don't simply exist. And this is because French universities don't need them. French students take set courses each semester, so a set list of courses. They don't get to choose from courses based on descriptions like we do here in the States. So you're not going to be able to find syllabi for these types of programs. The good news is, at most universities in France, courses won't fill up. So you're going to have this add-drop period where you can test out courses that you want and then register for the class once you've gotten it approved from your university back home. So it is a method that's worked in the past, and it's something that works pretty well. So again, you're not going to find those course descriptions for regular university course programs. Now, while course descriptions might not be available, you should be able to find the course lists on the university website. And what we're going to need for most ISEP applications for most of the sites is we will need courses on your course site request list with course codes. So the best thing to look for is when you go to the website for a university, look for the word formation. This is like the department. This is where you want to start to find those course lists and narrow it down. Then you want to look for the terms licence or licence professionnelle or masters. These are the different levels, or the different years. So it's broken down by L1, year 1, L2, year 2, L3, year 3, for example, and then each L1, L2, L3 is broken down by semester. So you'll see the odd number semesters, SM1, SM3, and SM5, those are going to be your first semester courses, so those will be your fall courses, whereas SM2, SM4, and SM6, those even numbered courses, those will be the courses that are offered in the spring. So then you have the Master's Year 1 and the Master's Year 2. Now, Master's courses are going to be open to ISEP students as long as you meet the prerequisites. And for most of those English programs that we talked about, they are that Master's Year 1 level. And so again, the Master's Year can also be broken down into semesters, Semester 7, Semester 8, and Semester 9, and Semester 10 for that M2 level. If you still can't find what you're looking for, then you can look for the words list or liste des enseignements, and that means course lists. So if you still are having trouble, just feel free to email us at any time. It can be tricky to navigate, especially if you're not up to that B2 level. It might be hard to read the websites. So once you've located that courses, you're on campus, now you're trying to figure out how many credits you need and how those credits are translated, etc. So there's two types of credits for the ISEP France programs. You have ECTS credits, which is the European Credit Transfer System, and you have contact hours to help you determine how many credits courses are. So for regular university courses in French or in English, you're going to be awarded ECTS credits, and typically we go by a 2-to-1 scale to convert it to US credits. So 2 ECTS credits is equal to 1. So if you're taking a 30 ECTS course load, that's going to be 15. So we like to say that at least 24 ECTS will give you a full course load. Most transcripts are also going to list contact hours next to the ECTS credits. So if your school prefers to use the contact hour method, typically we recommend that 15 contact hours for the semester is equal to 1 US credit hour. Now for the language and culture programs, you're not going to be awarded ECTS credits because these language and culture programs aren't necessarily courses at a university. They're at an institute that's affiliated with the university, so you can't get ECTS credits. And this is the case for all ISEP direct programs and for most of those ISEP exchange programs for language and culture. And again, we like to recommend that 15 contact hours is equal to 1 US credit hour. But you need to check with your home university because the home university is the final say on how credits are awarded. So please check with your home university and don't necessarily just go by what ISEP recommends. ISEP also recommends a grading scale for these French programs. So it's really hard to get that A grade in France. To get above a 14, you have to be like a really good student. So the French grading system is 1 to 20, where anything below 10 is failing in France. But ISEP likes to recommend that we give students the benefit of the doubt and lower the grading scale a bit because students are taking courses in another language, which can be really tricky, and they're in a different country and in a new system, so there's a lot of variables that might be affecting their grades that semester. So we like to say that 14 to 20 is an A, 12 to 13, B plus, A minus, etc. And then anything below a 7 is a failing grade. Now remember, this is a recommendation and ISEP can only recommend. We can't tell universities what they need to award students. So students should always note that it's up to the home university to determine grading scales. One thing you might run into is you might see if a student gets an 8 or a 9 that there's no credit awarded to that because in the French transcript they can't actually award credit to anything below a 10. That's when we ask the registrars to step in and determine whether or not they want to use the grading recommendation and determine whether or not they want to actually award credit. So if you ever get a transcript and you don't see a credit number next to that grade that might be an 8 or a 9, get in touch with us and we'll help you determine how many credits that course will be based on what it's been in the past. So now let's go into a bit of preparing to go, visas and other important information. So we'll start with the French visa for U.S. citizens. Now, I deal mostly with U.S. citizens going to France, so I'm able to assist them a bit on the French visa process. But again, I'm not a consulate officer, so it's always important to check with the consulate. If you're in the U.S., the consulate designated to your state, or if you're not from the United States, you need to check with the consulate in your country, because I am not very familiar with all the different processes for obtaining a French student visa. I'm only familiar with the U.S. process. So for US students, you're going to start with Campus France USA, and that's the first link up here. I'll also link it below. I also have a few other resources below as well. I have my visa advising guide, but again, I'm not a consulate officer, so I recommend you checking with the consulate for your region. Now, I've listed a consulate guide as well, which will tell me which consulate you need to go to. It's the consulate designated to either your home state or the state where you go to school. So you don't necessarily have to go to your home state one. If you're at school and you want to go to the one designated to your school, you can do that as well. And then below you'll notice the required documents checklist. So the main thing you want to know about the US visa or the French visa process is that it can take up to 6 to 8 weeks to process. So it's really important that students don't wait until the last minute, because if you do wait until the last minute, time slots for interviews will be booked up. It'll be a very stressful process and it won't be fun. So if you start early and have a checklist and read all the materials we provide, it will be a very stress-free process. One thing to note is for most consulates, an in-person interview is necessary. So you're going to need to plan travel to get to the consulate if it's not close to where you're at. So there'll be some costs associated. So you'll want to check the consulate guide. You'll want to check the various websites and checklists to make sure you have everything correct. But if you have any questions, feel free to email me at any time. But it's really a 3-step process. You have to do your internal Campus France application, and then you have to mail your money order and everything to Campus France, and then you have to do your separate process at the actual consulate where you go for your interview. Keep in mind that these processes change all the time. So for example, apparently Chicago might not require an interview anymore, but you need to check with them because this changes. So it's really important to pay close attention to the various websites that discuss the visa process. So last but certainly not least, I want to talk about some more important information, some common topics that I get questions about from both students and advisors, etc. So we'll start with talking about some of the startup costs, some of the additional costs that students might not prepare for. One of these major costs is the French Social Security. Now, all students going to France, unless they're from the EU, have to purchase the ISEP health insurance. And on top of that, they have to purchase this French Social Security that's a government requirement. It's a form of health insurance as well, and it can run between 215 to 230 euros for the semester or full year when the students first arrive. So that's a major startup cost that I want to make sure students know about before going. Another thing students should keep into account is that they're all going to receive, if they're on ISEP Exchange, a meal stipend. Now, one thing they need to understand with this meal stipend is they're going to have to open French bank accounts. The logistics to opening a French bank account can be a little tricky and it can take some time. So we always recommend that students prepare for at least 1 month because they may not receive their meal stipend until 1 month into the program. So with that French Social Security, the need for meals money the first month, and just additional startup costs such as bedding, toiletries, etc., I like to recommend that students bring at least $600 for the first month. Another important thing we like to talk about before students go is the aspects on health and safety. And in the comments section below, you can find some really important links to the U.S. Department of State, to STEP, where students can register for the Traveler Enrollment Program, to the CDC website, where people can find more information on health and safety as well. Now, one thing we tell students they should attend is the ISEP pre-departure orientation provided by ISEP Central. There we'll go into more depth about our health and safety policy, travel, academics, cultural aspects, etc. So we really encourage all students to attend that pre-departure orientation webinar before they go. It's typically offered like 1 month before the start of their program, and it's very, very helpful for all students. So thanks again for watching video 2 of our ISEP France Webinar Series. I hope you found it very helpful. Again, look in the comment section below for more information. You can also email me at lmoats@isep.org if you have any questions. Tune in for video 3 of our series, which is going to go through all the different sites within the ISEP France network. Again, thanks for watching and have a great day.